Hello, I'm Mark Heineke, Director of Strength and Conditioning at Winston-Salem State University. A couple weeks ago, I did the NSCA SIG group talk on sport-specific programming, how to design a program sports for specific sports. At that moment, it was one of my first Zoom meetings. I didn't know I could record it, so I've had a lot of questions about the talk and a lot of people requesting the video, so I'm going to summarize it and redo it for you and send it out. If you have any questions, my email is located at the top. Basically, when setting up a program, we need to know what we're doing and why we're doing it. I've broken down exercises into 3 different type of categories for exercises: structural, functional, and injury prevention / prehab. Structural exercises, basically, these are the ones that are going to affect the structure of the human anatomy, the structure of the bones, the structure of the muscle, the structure of the tendon. This is where we're going to see our hypertrophy. This is where we're going to see the bones grow a little stronger, bones may increase in density. This is where we're going to see our tendon strength increase. Those are structural type exercises. Mostly, those are for aesthetics, think hypertrophy. Functional type exercises. These are ones that are going to affect max strength, reactive strength, strength speed. Think improving athletic ability. Prehab or injury prevention. These are specific exercises that are going to be done to try to minimize the risk of an injury. Those are my 3 type of exercises that I'm going to program into my design for my athletes. Once I get there, I'm going to take those as my 3 top categories. I got lower body exercises, I have upper body exercises, and I have full body exercises. Now, this is just a brief list. I'm sure very creative people, there's thousands of exercises out there. You just have to figure out where they're going to fall into these categories. I have 9 boxes up there. First, looking at my lower body exercises. From a functional standpoint, improving athletic ability. Squats, lunges, step-ups, Romanian deadlifts, and good mornings. I put those are my functional exercises. There may be some carryover. Some of them you may be able to use for structural. Some of them you may even be able to use for injury prevention. But for my programming, when I'm using those are my functional type exercises. I'm trying to improve athletic ability. Structural exercises, I'm going for hypertrophy. These are just 2 easy ones came to the top of my head. Leg curls, leg extensions. Notice the big difference between those 2 lists. Not necessarily the number of exercises, but structural exercises, those were single joint exercises, emphasizing one muscle group. My functional exercises, they're multiple joint, emphasizing multiple muscles at the same time. Injury prevention standpoint, I put low step up. I have the banded knee extensions. Both of those are for ACL type prehab, ACL type injury prevention. Those are just 2 examples. I'm sure that there are a lot more out there. You know, you can do tying the bands for your ankles. You can do towel pulls for your ankles. We'll get to that in a minute for when we get down to the sport specific, but those are just 2 examples of injury prevention type exercises for the lower body. When we're talking upper body, functional exercises, I quantified them both presses and pulls. Basically, we're talking incline press, military press, overhead press, however you define it, flat bench, decline. Those are my presses. My pulls, pull-ups, bent over rows, seated rows, lat pull downs. Basically, we're getting our chest, we're getting our back, tris, bis, shoulders. Once again, those are multiple joint exercises. Structural type exercises. Bicep curl, single joint again. Skull crushers, single joint again. Chest flies, shrugs. Injury prevention, I'm looking at my YTI series. I'm looking at neck type exercises. Full body work. Deadlifts and Olympic lifts. Functional. Structural, I'm sure you could switch some of those over to be more structural, but for me, I don't use the full body for structural type work and injury prevention. I don't use full body for injury prevention. That's just me personally. That's my take. Now, we have our exercises. We have the lower, upper, full body. Now, how are you going to put these into an actual program, and how are you going to make it sport specific? From my experience, there is no such thing as a basketball squat. There is no such thing as a football squat. There is not a softball squat. There is not a track squat. We have a squat in the weight room. It can be overhead squat. You can do a front squat. You can do a back squat. But there's no sport specific term in there. A squat is a squat. We can adjust the squat based off what training age you're at, what limitations the athlete may have from an injury standpoint, from a flexibility standpoint, from a learning curve standpoint, but there is no sport-specific squat. There is no sport-specific clean. A clean is a clean. You can do a power clean, you can do an Olympic clean, you can go from the hang, you can go from the ground, but there's no sport-specific exercise in the weight room. When I'm talking sport-specific and I'm programming this into the weight room, I'm looking at injuries. I'm looking at injuries from two different standpoints. Number one, what type of injuries do we have at a national level? I'm talking the whole nation here. If we're looking, easy ones to pick out right now, if we're looking at football, concussions. That's always going to be a hot topic right now, concussions. If you're looking women's soccer, most likely you're going to look at ACLs. If you're looking track and field, that's another real easy one. For sprinters specifically, hamstrings. Once I have the national injuries categorized, then I'm going to look at local injuries, my teams in particular. I'm going to sit down with my trainers. Did we have one particular injury that stood out? If we had 10 injuries, were all 10 of them hamstrings? Were all 10 of them ACLs? If they are, then I look back at what I've done the last couple of years and see what type of changes I may need to make. If I have one hamstring, one quad, one calf, one big toe, that really doesn't help me from a sport-specific standpoint. I can work with the team as an individual, but from a group setting standpoint, I'm not going to program specific stuff in for the whole team. If it's 10 hamstrings, yes, I'm going to go back, look at what I did at hamstrings. Maybe I did too much hamstring work. Most likely I probably didn't do enough. I'm going to have to go back, look at my lower body exercises, see what type of hamstring work I can work back in. Some of those exercises up there, they may be under functional, but they also could be injury prevention. When I'm talking hamstring work, I'm trying to strengthen the hamstrings. Structural, I'm going to do some more leg curls. Functional, I'm going to do some more RDLs and good mornings to strengthen the hamstrings. You might even use the glute ham developer to strengthen those hamstrings. Football-wise, if we're talking neck injury or concussions, neck strength, trap strength. Doing those shrugs. Shrugs can act as those big horse collars you see, limit the range of motion on the head for the whiplash, and neck strength overall. The stronger your neck, studies have shown, lower the risk of concussions. If we're talking baseball, we're worried about rotator cuff injuries. I'm going to throw in some more YTIs, and I'm going to be more cognizant of what I'm doing with the shoulder if I have a lot of injuries there. Luckily, in the past, I've, knock on wood, I haven't had too many rotator cuff type injuries, but I've sat down with my baseball coach so we know what we're doing, and we both hit the shoulder. He does some in practice, I do some in the weight room. So we have that type of connection. going back, we talked hamstrings, we talked baseball a little bit, we talked football, but looking at other injuries, I mean, some of it may be based off what you've seen on your team. We could go through basketball. You're looking most likely ACLs and ankles on a national level. Some of it may be based off range of motion limitations for some of those sports. Thinking tennis, we're probably looking low back tightness. You're looking, once again, it's an overhead sport, so we're looking at rotator cuff and labral type issues. Same with volleyball. Volleyball, low back. You may get some knees because of all the jumping, but once again, overhead sport, so you got to work those shoulders a little bit extra. So when I'm specifically talking sports-specific type work, what am I doing to minimize the risk of certain injuries? Once again, a lot of those functional exercises, they will serve as good injury prevention type exercises. Squats, they are going to protect your knees. Step-ups, lunges, they're going to protect your knees. I believe Dr. Half, he stated, once you get that body weight squat above 2 times your body weight, you're doing a lot of good benefits for your knees. The higher you go above that 2.0 body weight squat, the less likely you may get those knee type injuries, according to some of his studies. So that's a functional exercise. It also doubles up as injury prevention. I hope this helps to clear up some of the questions that some of you may have had on how to make a program sports specific. This is just from a weight room perspective. If we're talking run and conditioning, that's a whole nother lecture, but I wanted to make this short and sweet. If you have any questions, my email's up there, HeineckeML@wssu.edu. Thank you for your time.